Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Subscribe. Tell your friends.
Adam Schefter reported early on Sunday that Carson Wentz plans to ask for a trade in the offseason because his relationship with head coach Doug Pederson is fractured beyond repair. John, you were part of the Eagles front office. Doug Pederson, hard to get along with or not hard to get along with? What's the word?
Never met a soul that does not like Doug Pederson. So I would go, yes, easy to get along with. I'd say when you think Doug Pederson, you think nice, likable human.
I mean, he gets along with the Philadelphia media. I watch his press conferences all the time because he handles them so well.
Guy, he's one of your classic backup quarterbacks for 14 years. Why? People liked him. It's not one of those where I think we've seen it over the years with Parcells, the Sabins, Mike Zimmer types. You usually don't see it with normal, nice offensive guys. You're not going to read too many Frank Reich, he doesn't see eye to eye with so-and-so. Same with Doug. Pete Carroll feels like gets along with a lot of guys. It's just what? I got this situation red flagged, guy.
Didn't Pederson, by the way, Doug Pederson, so likable, didn't he host a radio show in Green Bay when he was Favre's backup? And he would drive, I've heard the story, he'd drive 30 minutes and then he would just hang out with fans afterwards at the bar.
I think Favre didn't want to do it, so he just said he'd do it for him, right? Wasn't that the deal?
Something
and then he hosted one of his things, he gives ice cream away at the team meeting on Saturday nights. People love it.
Time to eat a goddamn snack. All right, what do you got?
Well,
I interrupted you.
Yeah, I'm just not Carson Wentz. His career right now, you can't leak this out week 17. What is to be gained from Carson Wentz for it to be out that he's going to demand a trade? Because it's clear where it's coming from. Why is he trying to look like the bad guy? Why is he trying to... You don't gain sympathy right now when you played really, really poorly, right? A business, if you go under as a business, that's in normal times, that's kind of on you, right? For whatever reason, if you've been doing for a while and it just goes under, right now, if you go under, people kind of, you get a lot of sympathy. There are all these charities that are helping people out. People understand. Sometimes when we've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick got benched, it was unfair just in terms of play. He was playing well. Turned out he was better than Tua, and they were winning when he started. But Carson Wentz, not all benchings are equal. He got benched 100% because he couldn't play any worse. So you don't get any. Sometimes you get equity with the public. I don't see how he gets any equity with the public. Oh, feel bad for me. Part of it's being a fucking pro. Hey, shut up. No one cares what you think in this situation.
I think what's happening is he's trying to get Doug Pederson fired. It looked like Doug might be headed towards a firing at the midway point of the season, right? And now it feels like he's saved. I shouldn't say feels like. It seems like he saved his job. I'm saying this on a Sunday night. And I think he's saying he realizes if Pederson comes back next year, nothing changes. He hates Doug. Now, to your point, he hates him because he's not playing. It's his fault. But he hates him. I think that to me is that's got to be the motivation here, is he's trying to get Pederson fired.
Which, okay, not the first athlete, won't be the last to try to get a head coach fired, right? I was going to use the word star player, highly paid player. Let's just use that word. To me, you have validity if you're LeBron James and you want the guy gone. Aaron Rodgers with McCarthy, if he told Mark Murphy, I can't fucking do this anymore, bye-bye, Mike. I'm sorry, Carson Wentz. If I'm Howie and I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I'm in a weird spot. It's hard for me to value what you say right now, given I've paid you all this money. We've given you every opportunity. We invested in the franchise, and now you're bitching and moaning? You got justifiably benched. I don't see where he really has his argument. It's just backed up with support. He can think that. People think whatever we want to think, right? I'm sure me and the lady that got in the argument this morning, I'm pretty confident where I stand. I'm pretty confident where she stands, and it wouldn't change. Just this might not change, but the fact is, Carson, you don't get to just dictate for when you've been playing really shitty. And you really, some of your career resume has a lot of holes.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you got 2 MVPs, or if Josh Allen came out at the end of the season, let's just hypothetically say, and it was reported he cannot work with Sean McDermott, I think everyone's response would be Sean McDermott's probably in trouble, right? But this guy doesn't have any equity.
No, he doesn't. So there's a couple things too, right? One of it, like what you're talking about, is not just is it right or wrong, but would a team who needs a quarterback like the Niners or the Colts, somebody in that realm, would they be interested in him? So a couple things. One, keep in mind, Doug Pederson is not in charge of the draft in Philadelphia, right? It's not Doug Peterson. Now, maybe Doug wanted Jalen Hurts. Maybe he thought Jalen Hurts was intriguing. But Doug Pederson didn't draft the guy that replaced Carson Wentz. That's not Doug's fault that Jalen Hurts got drafted. Number two, the guy that's going to win the MVP is in a similar boat as you, Carson, just from a draft standpoint. Except the guy they drafted in the first round. They drafted Jordan Love. Rodgers just handled it. So you had every chance to beat out Jalen Hurts. You did. The job was yours. He looks better when he's the quarterback than you do. And then finally, this isn't the first thing we've heard. Sorry, I just want to say this about that. Right? Like before it was like, oh yeah, but it's who was the receiver that people thought was the leak a couple years ago?
Alshon.
It's like, oh, Alshon. No one, whatever. Alshon says, somebody said that no one in the locker room likes Carson. They don't respect him. But yeah.
Because remember, Foles used to throw to him more than Carson because Carson was throwing to his buddy Ertz.
Right. It's just Alshon. Well, maybe it wasn't just Alshon. Sorry. Okay, jump in.
I understand the Colts because Frank has an intimate relationship with the guy. I was listening to Peter King.
Which guy? He's got an intimate relationship with both guys, Doug and Carson.
Well, yeah. I just heard Peter King had Frank on his podcast and just asked him, like, I'm not trying to get you in any trouble here, but just like your relationship with Carson Wentz. And Frank kind of flipped it and like, my relationship, not just with Carson, but with Nick is really good. Like both those guys. And I just think he gets very close to his quarterbacks, and it's proven with Rivers. That move I would get. To me, the Niners, some of the Carson Wentz things do not jive with the way Kyle is. And I'm not saying they jive with the way Frank is, but Frank at least knows the player. But he knows the player.
Yeah,
that to me, there the parallels with Kyle, there aren't any. And this is like, I don't know. Like I think this year just reflected really, really bad on Carson Wentz. I don't think anyone else looked that. Now you could, if you're a diehard Eagles fan, like Howie's draft or whatever. But I think Carson Wentz is by far the biggest loser of the franchise. Like, what's his deal?
Yeah. No, I don't think you could. Even though I think he still has enough. I think he could be a good NFL quarterback. But I don't feel good about it now. And on top of that, I wouldn't want. I think even if he is a good quarterback, you would have to take a little bit of stock of all the other, just the personality red flags that seems like exist.
Well, I'll give you one. I think if you gave any team the opportunity to pick one guy, they would Carson Wentz or Jared Goff. It wouldn't even be a hesitation because they both have been terrible this year. You would just take Carson Wentz hoping to get the upside, right? If you just had to pick the two.
Yeah, yep.
The difference, though, is like I don't think – say what you want about Jared Goff. There are no questions about his teammates and the way he acts and conducts himself and just resonates with his locker room. Like, to me, that's an A+. That's part of being a star quarterback, right? Say what you want about Jimmy, like the guys like him. You know, it's like not liking, like that's a fucking problem.
And it was real before this year, and I'd heard the whispers, you'd heard the whispers. Like, there was enough out there that I'd heard from people who'd been around that organization. Obviously, you worked for the organization. That made me think when that Alshon report came out, or I keep saying Alshon, he wasn't attached to it, that it was real. Just a very high level of insecurity with Carson has, for a few years now, been part of the story. And it came out when when he wanted Foles gone. God forbid we keep Foles around in case I get hurt again and he's the backup. Now Foles wanted to leave too, right? Foles,
you know what the argument might be. Maybe he doesn't have the thick enough skin for a place like Philadelphia.
Yeah, but I don't think he has thick enough skin. It doesn't feel like he has thick enough skin for the competition. Like, the media is not what's making this a problem in Philadelphia. It's the fact that
but I'm just saying the pressure of a place like that is just kind of crumbled under it all.
Yeah, well, it
gets a little easier on another team when you don't have the competition.
It does, but to me, again, like, you could end up with competition somewhere. It's a second. They didn't take a first-round quarterback. They took a guy in the second round who's not better than you.
I know, but I think in his kind of warped mind, he thinks it's really like I could see. You just try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. I don't agree with anything. I bet he thinks they're out to get me. They're trying to replace me.
Yeah, I'm just saying they gave you more money than anybody, and you now have had.
I don't care.
Security issues with two quarterbacks.
Yeah,
and they ran Foles out, and that's not accurate. They were happy. Foles was
I,
happy to leave because he got paid.
I heard like a
Let me rephrase that.
45-year-old Navy
Correct
SEAL
that.
guy say this. He's like, what's funny is like the word mental toughness gets thrown around now a lot. I would say like the last decade. It really
Mamba
gets,
mentality.
He's like fucking the 90s. You just figure it out, get it done. Like, did you finish?
There
it was
wasn't
like
a name for it.
But I think the one thing with quarterbacks, whether we call it mental toughness, the grit, whatever, he's got to fucking toughen up, or he's just not going to last.
He doesn't. I would really struggle if I were the Colts to bring him into my organization as my center, as the guy.
But back to I don't think the Eagles are going to risk it. Like they're not. This is not the NBA. They're not going to let him dictate the terms.
Right.
I'll be surprised. I expect Carson Wentz to be an Eagle next year.
And Doug Pederson to be the coach?
I just don't see why that would have came out. Like it came out from multiple people. I do think he's back.
Yeah.
But it did like I was like, is he going to be back? I don't think the Eagles, maybe smart. The one thing Jeffrey's big on, like PR type stuff, you wouldn't want it out that you weren't going to fire him and then fire him. It's one thing to do. They did that last year with assistants. It's another thing to do with the head coach. It would look kind of jumbled.
It would be.
Right?
Yeah.
If he was going to get fired, smart for Doug to get that out.
Yeah, maybe Doug's the one that leaked it.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame him.